Like now,
it was one of those things. Yeah, it was one of those things, Rob. You know how I walk my palatial state, and I go from the east wing to the west wing,
and it usually takes you like half an hour because it's so large.
When I'm not being carried, it does take me, even longer at times. But I was walking by the west wing this morning, and I noticed the windows were broken, and there was a rock and a note attached. So I went by and saw this note, and I opened the paper, and the note started off with, I just sat there looking at this note, and it's written in, I think, in blood. I think it was written in blood, but it said, "I'm tired of being what you want me to be, feeling so faithless, lost under the surface. I don't know what you're expecting of me, under the pressure of walking in your shoes." And then signed, Vanis. So I figure, again, some sort of cryptic message. I'll leave it out there. I don't know what it means. I'll let the guest audience give me your cryptic thoughts of what that means, what's going on. So it is.
Are you missing a pair of Vans shoes by any chance?
Get out of here!
I will have to check. I'll have to check the cabinet of my shoes. When
you have so many, how can you? If one's missing, how would you know? That's the problem. I get it.
When I was so stern on butlers, it's just because I have real life experience. When you have a fleet of butlers,
yes.
And when I tell my guy, I don't want to disclose names. When I tell my guy, don't open my packages, it's written the same font that we've been staring at for the last 24 hours.
Right.
I just trust that he's smart enough to realize that we've been staring at this psychopath spelling and writing, and it's the exact same as the package that's arrived at my house. So maybe we shouldn't open that said package, but
it seems really reminiscent of a movie we may have just seen recently.
It's so weird, It's so weird.
Twice.
Yes, twice. I saw it twice.
Not once, not twice, but thrice. But Rob, doesn't that make weird things for you? Where
yeah, it does.
You're supposed to be really smart, part of the secret MI6 thing, and you've been spending the last gotta be 24, 48 hours staring at calligraphy and writing and whatnot. I would just think that you'd be able to put two and two together, but I guess that's what happens when help is hard to find. I think that's the answer of the day. Help is hard to find. Hey, anyways, enough of my problems. Welcome everyone to the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. I'm your host, questionable, maybe even a baron. With us is one of the owners and proprietors of Heroes World. That'd be Mr. John Ho. Say hello.
Hello, folks.
And of course, with the Prince of Mischief himself, Mr. Rob Gaudet.
Hey, hello everybody. If you are, I would like to be your ward. I think that would be great.
I believe there was a TLC show talking about adopting adult children.
Okay.
Really weird, really creepy. I don't know, Rob. But we'll work. We'll see what happens. But that was one of the. It got really awkward. If you haven't seen it out there, search it down. There was this old man from I think Markham? It was from Cleveland or whatever that wanted to adopt a 20-year-old Austrian woman who was pregnant. It was
that's bizarre. That's bizarre. But see, I think it would be even weirder because I'm older than you. So for you to have adopted me, it doesn't work out that way. I don't think.
You don't know how old his face is and when my date is. True. So these are things that happen.
This guy's deep faking. He is 84 years old.
Money buys you
a TikTok filter.
This is just a sleeve, just like altered carbon. You don't know what's going on right now. So here we go.
We actually don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on the silly podcast. It's a Heroes World podcast. We are here to talk about a miniseries that begrudgingly I dragged to the finish line. That would be DMZ, based on the popular comic book series that they decided to make into a miniseries. I'm not holding back punches. We're going to talk about this show. All right, we're gonna. It is. John, what is this? What is the plot line of DMZ? Can you give us what's going on, John?
America's gone to war, and they've declared some middle zone, the DMZ demilitarization zone, or whatever you want to call it.
Whoa.
Rob can probably fill in the blanks. And then there's basically this lawless no man's land in between the two Americas. The original comic book focused on a character called Maddie, who was a reporter that was dropped into the zone. This series, I believe, does not adapt any of that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if you're speaking to, then the prequel makes sense to me. I thought maybe it was one of the short stories they did afterwards, but it's completely different. So it's set in the world of the DMZ comic book by Brian Woods. And I forgot who the artist was. I don't know if someone has it there. I'll pull it up in a second. But yeah, it was a really good book. Did really well at its time, and now we have this TV series. It's a little strange, 4-episode miniseries, right, Stu?
That is correct. The series initially was published back in the year of our Lord 2005, November to February 2012, 72 issues, and it does follow, as the internet tells me, main characters Matty Roth and Z Hernandez, created by Brian Woods and Riccardo Bricelli. I guess is the Brian Wood. Yes, those are the
that's yours.
Yeah, it it follows a lot of the tropes that are happening. Second Civil War, things have happened, and now this part of I think Manhattan is now a demilitarized zone, and you don't need to read the comic to watch the show, and vice versa. It is what it is. John, give us your initial thoughts. Rob and I were gung-ho. We got through this very quickly. To the best of our knowledge.
I took a second. I remember when we said we were going to do this, we were like, you know what? If it's trash, we should probably not do it. And for some reason, you guys watched it and you did not pull the plug on this. So it leads me to believe you're okay with this. So we'll see how that goes. Overall,
I got through 1 and then 2, and Rob's like, "Are you done?" I'm like, "I'm halfway," and Rob's like, "And I'm done." I'm like, "Gosh, I have to finish
this is like when you go to a movie and you kind of like you're watching it and you think the other people are enjoying it, but everyone is thinking it's trash, so you totally could have just walked out. This happened to me with that god-awful Conan movie starring Jason Momoa and Ron Perlman. I went with my buddies, and for some reason, whenever we looked over, the other person was looking at the screen. So we never made eye contact to go, what the F is this shit? And we totally 100% would have walked out, because that's what we said after the movie. It's like, yo, I wanted to walk out after 10 minutes. And you're like, yeah, me too. And it's like, I looked at you, it looked like you were intently watching this. So boo to you guys if you guys had a real problem with this. But I thought it was okay. I think upon some research, though, to my understanding, this was supposed to be an ongoing TV show that was cut short because of the pandemic. Originally started filming in March 2020, and now is chopped down to a 4-issue series. So I don't know if we want to touch any spoilers at all, but it does run out of gas towards the end. So or things just all of a sudden start dropping. Maybe the opposite. Maybe they pour too much gas onto it. But there are some things I liked. Do we want to go into that stuff or leave that for later?
You know what? Might as well go for it, because we'll let Rob unleash the Kraken afterwards.
Okay, yeah. So I won't give out any just in-your-face spoilers, but overall, what I did like about the series, my guy Hoon Lee is in this. You've seen him in Banshee. He was in the Warrior on
Iron Fist.
Yeah. Was he in Iron Fist as well? He is also the voice of Master Splinter in the TMNT Nickelodeon cartoon. I really love him. But someone else took the cake in this series, and it was Benjamin Bratt, who I don't know if he deserves the award for crazy overacting. I don't know if I've ever seen him play a gangster like this, but he was absolutely hilarious to watch. Every time he popped on the screen, I was like, what's he going to do next? All the way to the finale, and he spoiler alert, he's pretty ripped for an older gentleman. The next thing I did like the whole setting, the DMZ, whatever the sets they built or wherever they filmed this. It looked really good. So it looks like there's a world to be explored here. And maybe through 12 or 18 episodes, it would have kind of opened up a little nicer. That was really nice to look at. And it was a great setting. They just didn't seem to get to play enough in there. And then the last thing I really liked is I really liked the fashion. I don't know if you guys noticed. Everybody was wearing these really kind of sick looking outfits. So I don't know if they were supposed to look all homeless. But they all look pretty fire. Like the vest and everything that some of the bad guys or the main characters are wearing. And the different outfit changes that Rosario Dawson had and stuff, they all looked really fly. So I did like that. And like I said, I feel like this series just was not cooked enough and would have benefited from 12 episodes or something like that.
Disagree. Rob, go ahead.
Now, usually Stu and I are on the same page, a lot. I'm conflicted on this because there are moments in this show that I really enjoy. And I got to say, the cast as a whole, I think, did a fantastic job. It's almost like all the pieces were there, but I really do think that COVID and the COVID production really kind of hampered this show. I mean, I think, looking back, and I don't know what the showrunners are thinking. I wonder if they're like, maybe we should have put a pin on this until we could get back into full production, because the timeline of things didn't work out. Like Rosario Dawson's character, and I love Rosario Dawson, but this all happens over the course of like 5 days. And this is the DMZ is a huge swath of land within the boroughs of New York. And yet they're really only focusing on
Manhattan Island specifically.
Right, Manhattan Island, but they're only really focusing on one small section. But it's inferred that there's a lot, like this whole entire, like Manhattan is all part of what's going on with this power struggle, a very Shakespearean power struggle between warring fractions. And it's just unfortunate that the limitations of COVID probably stopped them from being able to really birth to life what the show was likely written to be presented as. Benjamin Bratt did a fantastic job. I mean, this guy, I saw this guy originally in Law and Order way back in the day, right? To think like he's still like he's like Paul Rudd. This guy doesn't age like normal human beings. This guy has a picture of Dorian Gray up in his attic, and he's also ripped to hell. I mean, this guy is like, and he's also married to a Bond girl. So I mean, Benjamin Bratt, or he's got my my vote. John
got your vote.
John mentions Hoon Lee, who I thought was fantastic. Freddie Mireyes, we saw him last on Until They See Us, or Now They See Us. Sorry, Ava DuVernay's miniseries on Netflix, which is fantastic. I gotta say though, the kid who plays Odie, Jordan Preston Carter, like he's maybe 10. He impressed me the most out of everybody, because he was able, like, there's a lot in this show, him seeing the ghost of his uncle or of his grandfather. Like, you don't even realize that's a ghost. Like, the morality issue of him. I think that we were supposed to be watching all of this through his eyes. And again, I think because of COVID and retooling that they had to move it around. Is 4 episodes 2 episodes too many? I think because of the limitations, I think this probably would have done really well as 2 90-minute parts. Or like I said, put a pin in it and wait 3 years until they could flesh the story out the way I think it was meant to be. There's a lot to like in this show, but there's a lot to make you just smack your head because it just doesn't make sense. And everything happens way too fast. And it is very indicative of a COVID production.
Yeah, John, jump from episode 3 to 4 is ridiculous. Like the amount of ground they have to stitch up. Sorry.
John, you would know Benjamin Bratt's wife as she was Katana in the Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Get out of here.
100%. Rob knows her from Bond. These are the ways that you would know Benjamin Bratt's wife. So, that's
so too.
Yep. Or John, you would know her from her classic Ballistic X versus Sever.
Oh, God.
Well. Yes. And I know you've seen that movie, so therefore she was also there. So
only once. Once was enough.
100%. Way too much. All right. So I'm going to... Man.
Still, what do you think? You are not like hiding your feelings for this.
Honestly, I wish they didn't do it at all. It like, this is one of those things where it's kind of like that Fantastic Four movie that no one ever talks about. If that movie actually came out in wide circulation, you just burn that franchise to the ground.
You basically burn this property now.
It's kind of how like people are talking about how Morbius right now has been slowly edited to distance itself from Spider-Man. It's like none of this, all the cuts are like Spider-Man. Let's not add this train wreck to the Spider-Verse. Before it's like it's connected, and now it's like everything's cut. We're not even included because
we're not affiliated with you.
Yeah, we're not affiliated with that because now Craven and all these things come in. It's like, why do we watch the Sony MCU film? These things are hot garbage. It's one of those things where I think the first episode, and it was funny, I messaged Rob once the first episode finished, and I'm like, is Ava DuVernay good? Like, is she good? Like, are we sure she's good? Like, we were all kind of were ecstatic and our hands were in the air when she was going to direct the New Gods. We're like, yes, this talent. And then now I'm like, ooh, is it this talent? Like, I guess she directed episode 1, and by far that was the best episode. The next 3 episodes were just horrific. I just sat.
She only did episode 1, right?
Yeah, she only directed episode 1.
Yeah, Ernest Dickinson directed the next movies, and again, like he has some credibility. Like he's directed one of John's favorite shows, Bosch. Like he's done a lot of things in this world. Yeah, Rob, Burn Notice to name a few, and a bunch of not. So it's one of those things where I understand, and The Wire, of course.
Cool.
I feel like this movie series should have been just a movie, and if it was an hour and a half, I can get behind her conveniently finding all these things, Rob, as you eloquently said, within like a 4-hour span. When this movie, you just like, oh, it has to be done in an hour and a half.
Yeah,
kind of through. But when it's a TV show like this, kind of like the Batman movie where we talked before, it's like, wow, this timeline seems really weird. Like Halloween, like how many days is this happening within the Batman movie? The same thing happens here where things are moving really fast. And coincidentally, Rosario Dawson's character knows everyone in some capacity or thing, and she can just kind of get things done. So I just sat there going, huh. So
it took Manhattan and made it the size of like a village.
It looked like one or two blocks. I think it honestly 1 or 2 blocks.
But that's fine because in the Tom Cruise Jamie Foxx movie where they drove in LA very quickly from one end to the other with no fun whatsoever.
Collateral.
Yes, Collateral.
It's a great movie.
If you've ever driven in LA, you know it's fast. It's kind of like also Gotham when like you can't even drive down Yonge Street in Toronto on rush hour that quickly, and you're like, oh, the tumblers going through streets so quickly. I'm like, how is this even
Maybe
possible?
they figured out traffic, okay? Maybe you ever think about that? We obviously have a problem in this province of being able to figure out traffic.
Maybe. So I just sat there going, this series started with a bang, and it fell with the whole situation with I Am Legend. Starts really good, and by the end, it just disappears to a whimper. I didn't care what happened at the end. I'm like, ugh. Wow, you built this up, and then, all right, here it is. So I don't want to ruin additional things. I just felt that if you have an opportunity to watch this, don't worry about it. Do yourself a favor and watch these 2 movies instead, because it probably takes the same amount of time. Watch Children of Men and V for Vendetta back to back, and that's a better use of your time than watching 4 episodes of this. You'll get much more. And better performances, and better directing, better performances. A one-shot that's incredible.
You said better performances twice.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I
just think that if you're gonna even if you watch a TV show about crime families, like you can watch The Wire, you can watch a million shows that are way better, or even Deadwood.
That's out of its league, man. That's a different league altogether.
Yeah, this is the Bush League. All right, John, give us a score out of 10.
It gets maybe a 5 out of 10 from me, only because I really like the cast, and like I said, if the look, some of the shots in the scenery and stuff, and like I said, the fashion. If you pull up stills of the outfits that the cast was wearing, looks really good. But overall, like Stu said, I think the last half, like I would watch maybe episode 1 and 2 if you just wanted like a taste of it to see what they were going through, and then you could probably check out. It's almost like, why did they try to wrap everything up if they were served this truncated timetable? They should have just left a bunch of unanswered things in the ether and go, hey, you know what? Maybe this series will get picked up by someone else or they'll continue. But for some reason, they decided to try and just wrap it all up in 4 episodes when there was too much story to fit in that package. So,
and here's the thing too, like this show, I think was originally supposed to be on Sci-Fi. I would have rather them film in Vancouver than wherever. This was not New York City they were filming in. Probably it was like It was not New York. So at this point, you might as well just film in Vancouver and done a full series and not done this than whatever they did. I think, as I'm checking, they filmed it in Atlanta. So I'd rather have them done it somewhere else because I'm like, this was not New York City. New York has a look. The Marvel shows kind of get it done. Like, New York is New York, and this was just some hodgepodge, basically an Atlanta set trying to figure it out. So,
but are we judging it like? You have to. I get that we have to judge it based on the material that's presented to us. Are we, though? Should we cut productions, whether it's DMZ or any other TV shows that we're watching, any slack because of the restrictions and constrictions that they had to face with COVID?
We didn't give that same courtesy to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The Marvel shows have the same restrictions, the same everything, and yet the Marvel shows, regardless of them, still kick this in the face.
Yeah, but the Falcon Winter Soldier had completed a good majority prior to their COVID shutdown. This was filmed after the first lockdown stuff. Like, they just started filming this actually, like, just last year. It was like summer of 2021.
Yeah, but even Reacher was filmed during COVID in Peterborough or whatever. So that does a better job of this.
They had the insane shooting schedule, though. Alan Richardson has mentioned how insane that.
Yeah, we talked about that, but even then, it's still better than this.
Yeah,
I look at the there's a part, I think it's in episode 2, towards the end of episode 2, where Rosario Z, because she goes by Alma and then Z.
Yeah,
she brings out this other lady who is, I guess, in control of all the water, right? Is that episode 2 or maybe it's beginning of 3?
It might have been beginning of 3, yeah.
Sure, yeah, but that's like a whole other area. That's like where the dam is and where the water filtration plant. Like, people are walking to things like really quickly. Like, you're talking about driving in LA from one section of LA to the other. These guys are walking super quickly, right? And that's where I think it has such a huge story to tell. I don't know how you do it. Like,
let's look at the example. The other example is Midnight Mass. Midnight Mass was filmed in Vancouver at the height of COVID. They were doing tests. They were doing all that stuff. Like, everyone had to do just probably the same things as they would in order to get production to be done. And I look at Midnight Mass. I look at this, and I'm like, maybe the ambitious scale of it. Midnight Mass is a small town.
Yeah, it's all contained. It's what we would sometimes call a bottle episode.
It's like they had the 12-issue story, and they had to cut it to 4. And instead of taking a small portion of it, they were like, let's take the beginning and the end, and who cares about the middle, and jam it together, and maybe it'll make sense. They should have just taken a snippet. It should have maybe just covered up to a certain point, like right before the election or something like that. And they should have went, they wanted to wrap it up. It's really weird.
Let's talk about the stupid election. Rob, what do you rate this out of 10?
I was going to make a joke and give it a John score, and then I realized somebody's going to clip this. Yeah, I would be a joke, and people would actually believe me. Listen, it's a 6. It's a 6 out of 10. It is. There is something about this show. There are moments in this show that will keep you watching. The problem is that there's a lot more moments that you might find yourself distracted. But if we focus on the performances, maybe a bit over the plot, because there are some aspects and avenues of the plot that are just, you're like, what? If you can focus on the performances, I think it's great. I think, Benjamin Bratt, like that fight scene between Skell and Benjamin Bratt was sick. Like, I gotta say, like, the cinematography for that was really cool. I was thinking as I'm watching that, where's Benjamin Bratt's MCU entrance, right? Like, I know it's a DC property.
Doctor Strange.
I realize that. But I was like a throwaway. He was such a throwaway character, like literally and figuratively, right?
He was an important crux. Without him, he would never go to Courtage.
No, but sure, yeah. It's the equivalent of a map at a gas station. Like, he didn't.
So you were waiting you were waiting essentially for Benedict Cumberbatch to be like, can we stop? Can we get a better actor? Like, and then it's like Wayne's World 2. Like, you bring in Heston and be like, I remember this girl.
I just
Like,
think that Benjamin
if you
Bratt,
want,
like, no, I think he would have. I think he should have been in a better role within the MCU as opposed to what they gave him. That's all. I think, man, he was kicking the shit. That was a pretty wicked fight scene, right? So, and he's got the physique. Like, I mean, he's anyways.
Yeah, I was like, how is this age gap gonna make for a good fight? And then he takes off his shirt, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah, because most people take off shirts in fights.
Yeah,
again,
it's the same rules as you play pickup basketball, John. There's one shirt and one skin.
Listen, I was a bit concerned. Like, I fell off of Why the Last Man pretty quickly after like the first 3 episodes, and I was a bit concerned that this was going to go the same path. I think if you were given, both of these, you're better off watching DMZ than Why the Last Man.
Without saying that's
well,
come on.
But I think with this also
it goes without saying that you should watch DMZ over watching paint dry. Like, that's the other thing.
But this is also, though, I fear that DC and HBO Max, they're pumping out these properties because they need the content for the subscribers. And I worry, like, if we were to rewind the clock pre-HBO Max 4 years ago, we had The Watchmen. I mean, like, how do you hold up? Like, that was an 8 or 10 episode series, and that was an HBO. And I know you're like HBO Max, but there is a difference in the division and the quality of these shows being done. And I worry now that with HBO Max and subscribers, they're pumping out a lot of these, and they have a huge IP library with DC that they're able to mine. And so, again, was this the right time? No, I don't think it was. Was it the right property?
About HBO Lite, which is basically how I refer to the quality of these shows in the spoiler review. But in regards to the rating, I'm more in line with John. I can't believe I'm in line with John.
I can't believe John's that low. John has never gone that low.
The ending is such a letdown. You're just kind of like, okay.
I'm gonna give it 4.5. I'm gonna be the low on this. I think Han Lee and Benjamin Bratt are the only saving grace of this series. Mimi Gummer had a couple lines here and there. She had some cool stuff. That she had the one dialogue, basically Rosario Dawson, and you never saw her again. Really, there's some cool things. Rosario Dawson's fine. Like, her carrying the show, it was okay. Like I said before, the first episode was so good in terms of, it was really good. Like, I kind of want to watch more, and then it just fell apart at 2, and then 3, and then at 4. I'm like, what am I watching again? Like, this doesn't feel like the same show that was episode 1. So that's my thoughts.
It almost could have ended on 3.
Yeah, 100%.
3 is the end of the big kind of brawl scene. They could have just went, "Oh, this is the end." Like, who knows what happens after this craziness?
Yeah. So let's not say anything more. We'll go into spoilers and go on our thoughts, because clearly I've never been so negative about anything. Clearly, let's go into spoilers. So, you have not seen DMZ. Why are you?
I don't know what there is to spoil for us to cover in a spoiler section.
Honestly, people died. And I don't want to say who died. So, if you're watching, I'm, like I said before, John, as much as Benjamin Bratt plays the charming yet crazy psychopath, Han Lee plays a really charming yet streetwise, criminal leader. So
it's kind of his go-to. He's played this similar.
Every time he kind of has this conversation. The first time you had the conversation with Rosario Dawson, I was really drawn to the screen. This is an incredible scene. This is where I guess Ava DuVernay really stretches around, a quick 2-person scene on a couch talking about the rise from oh yeah, you used to work at the hospital, and then to be a criminal overlord. So I thought
he was an orderly at the hospital. It wasn't like he was he wasn't even an X-ray technician. He was just an orderly.
Yeah. So I thought it was really well done. But John, walk us through. You can go through spoilers.
John has nothing.
Go. What do you got?
Well, because there's nothing like the journey of all the characters is all cut short. Like, Skell slash Christian, whatever you want to call him, his journey from bad guy to actually siding, redemption. I guess that exactly correct. Thanks, Rob. His journey, you're just like, it's not there. It's not really there. Even Rosario Dawson's turn to now be the leader of the DMZ, it didn't really come to fruition, if you want to call it. Who would have
thought that the assassin would be her son? I was like, whoa!
Yeah, that was pretty obvious.
That was like, oh my god, 8 years. I'm like,
like every character like just didn't quite have enough time to kind of become a proper like even who's Benjamin Bratt's character. You can tell towards the end they hint towards this whole, I'm a soldier, this is all I know how to do, that's why I want to incite this war, because I just want to kind of fight. Like you just get like a little snippet of it, so there's nothing has been expanded, so you don't really get attached to anybody. Like when they killed off Lucifer, aka Wilson Lee or whatever, I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever, that's a bad move, because he was actually one of the best parts of the show. Now he's gone, but then I realized there's only one more episode, so I didn't give a shit, right? So yeah, overall, there's nothing really to spoil per se, I think.
Well, I think we spoiled the Skell as the master assassin. So John,
that was like so, and then he falls in love with the adopted daughter of the Wilson Lee character. You're just kind of like,
There's also the radio DJ using a voice.
I was like, even the radio.
It's so very cliche. It's like two star-class lovers combined. I was like, oh god.
They could have played more on that. It could have been a whole Romeo and Juliet thing, but they didn't have time for any of this. Like it's really weird.
Rob?
Well, yeah. Listen, listen. We've already said what's a spoiler. Alma's going into the DMZ to find her son, who she hasn't. I guess. Let me just backtrack. The beginning of the show never actually explains that there was a civil war and that the United States has now separated into two separate fractions of the United States of America and the
fractions or factions.
Fractions? Matt? What are you talking about?
Those are all the same fractions.
I said fractions. I meant factions. But what was the other side? It was the United States of America and the American. I don't remember what the other side was.
Free States armies.
Yeah, but what was
they only ever showed 5 guys on each side. You don't know.
United States of America, and the other side was the Free States armies.
The Free States. Sorry, that's what they had. You're right. But they only showed it like on a map. So like it was an overhead like camera crane shot like on somebody reading the map. And then you see like this gray in the map of Manhattan, and that it says, the DMZ. But there's no and it just says, the Civil War. But there was no exposition to really explain what caused this. Why are we? How long did it last? Why did they decide to make Manhattan the DM? Like, there's nothing. Like, and it's not something that is. I thought it would be at least fleshed out throughout the course of these 4 episodes, and it wasn't. So if you're going in saying, okay, this is an interesting premise, I want to know why this happened, you're not going to find out. And yeah, the whole mystery of her going in, she's been looking for her kid for 8 years. And I don't know. I don't know. Did she go all over the continental United States? Like the continent? Like, I don't know how she figured out where he was. But she's like, I have 24 hours to search the DMZ. And you're like, holy shit, you got 24 hours to search like all of Manhattan. And you just rolled into the Sesame Street back set and figured out. That's what it reminded me of. I was like, where's Mr. Hooper?
She checked one clinic. And
then she goes, I need to see your patient records. And it's like, there's somebody here from 6 years ago. And it's like, he was here. And it's like, I don't know. It just, like I said, there is, John makes a good point when he was saying like we didn't understand Benjamin Bratt, Parko's motivation. We didn't know that he was a special forces until the very end of the show when he's like, I was in Afghanistan, bitch, and I'm da da da. And you're like, you're a former soldier. Like all of these, when I said before that they all have great performances, they do, but they never got a chance to flesh out. Like, Stu said this could have been a 90-minute movie. I said it could have been 2 90-minute things if you had fleshed out who the characters were. But John said this could have been like a 10 or 18 episode. And maybe so if each character, we got a backstory that we cared about them. The problem is I don't know how many times people said it, but they're like Alma, who is now being going by Z, which I don't know why she's a Z, but whatever. She's like, somebody's like, you've been here for 4 days and you think you know what's going on? And like, apparently she does. This woman snuck into the DMZ. She found her son. She treated a shotgun wound. She treated some other people. She got another doctor killed. And then she elevated herself to rise up to essentially be on equal with the two heads warring for power to be the governor of the DMZ. All in 4 days.
Inspiring speeches.
Do you know how long? Sometimes it takes me like a week to figure out what I'm going to do for like lunch on a Saturday. I'm just like, I have no idea what. I sat longer going through Netflix trying to find something to watch and eventually just give up. She accomplished way too much, way too quickly. So
it's agreed. Like, honestly, I think back at another film that's based in New York about a plucky young man who has to get out of there. His name, of course, Snake Plissken.
I was going to say Snake
Plissken. There is more explanation in that crawl as to explain why New York is the way it is than this entire thing. I think through that movie, bit for bit, and I'm like, yep, it explains that, and then there's the action sequence, and they get out of there, explain why they can't do this. And Snake Plissken, you know who he is. You explains his backstory. I'm like, yep, everything's clear. This is a complete dong show where, Rob, you're right. You have no idea why anything is happening. Like, you have no idea why the free armies have decided to separate from the American government, why Manhattan was chosen as the demilitarized zone. I'm like, honestly, like I was saying, 190. Like, it can, like, the Batman was 2 hours and 30 minutes. Like, you could have made a 2 hour, 30-minute movie more concise and cut out all of these extra cutscenes. I would rather watch the Justice League Snyder cut again than this.
That's huge. That's huge.
Again, to
I want the Icelandic singers holding on.
Yeah. Putting the sweater of Aquaman than this. This, I just sat there going, what a waste of a property. They just had this opportunity to do things. And I didn't realize that, like Z was basically Batman. Like, she can do no wrong. Everything she does is correct. And she's able to convince her son basically to flip sides with no real explanation.
She got shot at the end and you didn't even know. She's like, like that. And then she's holding her arm and you're like, oh, she got shot, but you had no clue. She was learning to deflect bullets like Superman.
Yeah. Well, honestly, she had the same. She learned it probably with the ninjas, and Batman did too on the League of Assassins to decompress pain. I just, like, don't get me wrong. I loved the different ideas of this show in terms of we have for once different people of color as leads. It's like, for once, we have this wonderful opportunity of people, Latin kings, you have an Asian, like all these people with different backgrounds in it, and they're mainly the leads, and they just waste this story. Like, so much so that if the next DMZ came out, I want no part of it. I was like, why? Why do I want to be part of this train wreck again? Like, they just did all the wrong reasons. So they
but is this their fault, or do they get pressure from the studio? No, we need to pump this out. Like, and that's what I'm saying. I could have done better if they.
And this is the conversation we had. And back to your point, Rob. I think back at, and I think you made the excellent point. HBO Max is pretty much just HBO Lite. Like, these are the half-baked ideas that didn't really work on HBO, because HBO, we make hits. Everything we do, Succession, Euphoria, Game of Thrones, The Wire, like The Sopranos, like, this is top level prestige television. They missed with Mad Men. Everyone missed with Mad Men. That went around and was like, yeah, we don't need it. But at the end of the day, most of the time they have excellent taste. Yeah. And you look at this, and I'm not surprised. They're like, yeah, let's just pass it off to HBO Max. They need something. And I just go, yeah, this is not a surprise. Like, proper done DMZ show, yeah, I think it would work very well. But the way it's constructed right now, good. I don't need any part of this. And that's the same thing I look at with this Green Lantern show, where it's going to be on HBO Max. I'm like,
yeah, it starts sweating. I'm like, oh boy, we're going to get the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Here's the thing. Looking back at some of those old movies that, like, the Green Lantern, it wasn't that bad. Not that bad compared to what. We'll compare notes when watching Morbius, and I'd rather have a fun probably romp with Green Lantern than probably watching Morbius. Mark my words.
Shall see.
Mark my words.
All
Book
right.
it, you know. So I wanted to love this show. I wanted to really embrace it. I enjoyed the comics, but I think it's one of those things where even if we did, like I look at my dream show, my perfect dream show. If you are to do this, and they'll never do it because they've already taken it. Batman. You're talking about the Batman series where it was basically Gotham. It's the exact same formula as DMZ. When Gotham was cut off from the world and Batman's missing.
No Man's Land.
And thank you, Rob. We're going to get the wonderful series trade paperback of No Man's Land. If you want something to read that's you just want to go through, do yourself pick up that. Don't watch this. Pick up the trades of No Man's Land and read it because it's an incredible. It does everything in this times 100. Plus, every once in a while, Batman shows up. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, they almost got there with that Gotham TV show. But yeah, if they ever did it proper, or if Matt Reeves gets a crack at it, like damn, yeah, I'm in.
Rob.
Yeah, I have an ambivalence to the young Bruce Wayne. I have an ambivalence to the Krypton TV series. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, we've talked about this before. There are we no longer have 16 channels of shit to choose from. You have 8,000 channels and new movies and shows dropping every week, and you have to elevate. And sometimes some of these things are just going to drop because they're not, they don't hold up. So if you're bringing quality like Ozarks, like you were saying before, I mean, you're talking older shows like with The Wire and this and that. But if you're bringing more modern shows that are knocking it out of the park, then you also have to step up. And if you can't, you have to pull back and figure out what's going on, what's causing you. This had all the markings to have been done really, really well. It is what it is.
Can you name another thing to watch instead of this, John? Anything else? Can you give a suggestion? Because clearly I'm giving a million suggestions. If you like this, check out this. Do you have anything else that you have in mind?
I don't know. It did make me want to rewatch Altered Carbon. So I don't know if it was just the atmosphere that they set up. This DMZ is a little bit of a cyberpunk feel to it, but yeah.
Rob?
I didn't get that at all. I don't know. I don't know. If you're into like this dystopia, like honestly, World War Z, if you're looking for, a crazy shit, watch World War Z. If you haven't seen The Watchmen, this is not a retread of the Zack Snyder movie. It's a fundamentally unbelievable, telling within the Watchmen universe that you definitely have to check it out. If you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself. Yeah, I don't know what else. Listen, if you haven't seen Pam and Tommy yet, go check that out.
Get it down.
you have a talking member in episode 2. So there you go.
All right. Well, don't listen to these two idiots. Listen to me. Pick up the trades, Batman, No Man's Land. Go watch.
Or read the comic. Read the DMZ comic.
Read the comic, DMZ, or do yourself a favor and watch the gem that is Escape from New York, and enjoy that ride. That is.
Or the other 2 movies Stu suggested, V for Vendetta and Children of Men, also great.
Yeah, just go through different things. John, where can they find you on the internet in the desert of the real?
Yeah, so online, if you want to follow us, Heroes World Online, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. Heroes World podcast on Spotify and iTunes. I combine podcast and Spotify. And then if you're checking us out in the real world, we are located in Markham, Ontario. All those links are down in the description. Hit us up. We got tons and tons of stuff. And thank you everybody for always sharing and liking all our stuff.
Rob, what's going on Hero Sidekicks show on Monday?
Yeah, so this is Monday. What we're doing is we are John and I are bringing our top 5 most rewatchable movies that are going to exclude like our comic book movies, the ones that we've talked about time and time again. There's not going to be any Batman 89. There's not going to be Superman or Winter Soldier. We're bringing our old school, most rewatchable movies, the top 5 from John to 5 movies from myself. And we invite you, the listeners or watchers, to join us Monday night, 8:15 on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and bring your movies. What are your most rewatchable movies? The ones that you'll throw in any day of the week, and let us know, and we'll talk about that. So definitely join John and I Monday night at 8:15 on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to me as I rant about anything else but this.
Stu was upset about this show.
And John. Such wasted opportunity. It's just the adage of like, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all, and that's the thing. So, anyways, thank you all for joining us. I look forward to seeing you all again. Be safe out there. Support local stores. Like, subscribe, click the bell, all etc. Carry on. See you later.
See ya.